excited to do this with you. I see that you have your cha going. How are you this morning?
I'm good, thank you. I'm really, really good. It's just been a relaxing day for me. I've literally been in bed all day, which is nice. It's a change because I'm always like busy. So today I was just like, you know what? I just want to sleep in. And I did that, which just felt really, really nice. And then I woke up around about what? I think it was 12 o'clock here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just started my day from there on, but feels good. What about you? How are you?
I'm good as well. I just dropped off my kids, got a little
Hi.
workout in, and was excited for this podcast. I was like, yay, I get to talk to another fellow podcaster. You also doing podcasts, correct?
I'm a production assistant, so I
Yeah.
am, I guess you can say yes, but also no, it's kind of like in the middle.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a production assistant, so I actually help basically research the type of guests that we want on. So Global Impact Show is basically it's a show that's basically all about like geopolitical issues, but not only that as well, we try to like mix it up and what people are finding interesting nowadays as well. So sometimes we'll talk about lifestyle or we talk about, I guess the most serious topics we've spoken about, COVID and, all those type of things as well.
Mhm.
So it's a bit of a mixture. And depending on, what's happening around the world, we'll kind of align the podcast to that. So for example, if there's a lot, obviously, as we see right now, in terms of war happening around the world and everything as
Mhm.
such, we'd look for guest speakers, who can speak on these topics
Yeah.
and everything as such. But Global Impact is kind of actually having a little makeover right now. So we are a little bit silent at the moment, but soon come, we'll be making some noise. So yeah.
Well, I definitely want to talk like ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਇਹ journey ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਈ ਆ? Like,
Okay.
I want to go back. Like, where was Preeti? Where was her mindset out? ਇਹ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਤੋਂ ਇਹ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ, or was it something that like landed in you? Or
Do you know what? I know I would talk Punjabi but my Punjabi is so bad. Honestly, whenever I say anything, like the words I say it like the other way around. Like whenever I'm at home and I say everything, my mom just looks at me and laughs and she's like, "Well, at least you tried." I'm like,
you do whatever you feel good.
but yeah, so where the journey started from, I have to say, like, ever since I was really young. So I've always really, really been into the news. I've always been like a child who was really curious about the world that we lived in. So I
Mhm.
remember like being young and just like collecting magazines, newspapers, literally in my room. Like I'd have stacks upon stacks, and I would never let my mom throw them away, no matter how old they were. So I was like, no, this is mine. So I have to say, like, it did begin from a young age. I love to write. I was very interested in the news. I was a bit of a loudmouth when I was quite young, so I like to debate as well. So everything was all there. And I had to say, like, as I grew up, obviously, when it came to university, I was like, yeah, okay, journalism degree,
Mhm.
that's where it is for me. So I went to uni, and I did a journalism degree. It was good because I learned a lot, but if I'm being truthful, did I really enjoy it? No, I didn't, to be honest. I just felt like now I'm enjoying everything, like doing things like kind of a bit by yourself and not being, I guess it's kind of like the education system that we're talking of, kind of like having to follow like a set path. Okay, I remember in the first year, like this is how you should write and everything as such. And I understand that because obviously, you're in it, you're doing a course, you have to kind of like abide by. But I kind of felt like my individuality was lost in
Mhm.
that. But other than that, I'm grateful for, I went to university and everything and such. I had a really good time, learned some stuff. And so I finished university and I did a bunch of internships and just freelancing because I always knew like whatever I'm doing, it has to involve like the media sector. Like that is my passion. But
Mhm.
not only that as well, I mean, like the media sector's absolutely massive. You've got lifestyle, you've got entertainment and everything as such. So my main area of like passion and focus has always been like human rights. So anything that I did, I just felt like, whether that's as a research or a production assistant or, helping out on set, like it had to involve like I'm doing there's like a greater reason behind it, it's helping someone, you know.
Can you share like some of the projects that you've worked on for human rights?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily human rights in itself, but it's more so to, kind of like involves that. So obviously, currently right now what I'm doing, I am a news interview booker. So that's as a freelancer, and that's mainly focusing on like geopolitical issues
Hmm.
and like, world events as well. So we're focusing on, the Ukraine and Russia war, and then obviously, the genocide that's taking place in Palestine at the current moment too. So what my like work here involves is, I have to really constantly kind of like be looking, at my phone, at the news as well, see what is the topic of conversation that is, how can I kind of say this, that is kind of taking place right now, and then through that, I would like reach out to various like media companies. So for example, like let's say if I don't know, we're talking about economy, and how the war in Ukraine is affecting, the global economy, because it is, and if that's a conversation that's quite that's happening quite a lot in,
Hmm.
in the media kind of like space, I would reach out, to the correct kind of media sector and be like, oh, okay, you know what? Here's a pitch. Here's my client. He can talk to you about this and everything as such. So that's currently something I've been doing, I guess, in terms of that. When we're talking about that humanitarian aspect as well.
Hmm.
Um, alongside this, just recently, I did do my first like international campaign. So it's called Brave Kids Ukraine.
Uh-huh.
So that was just last year, actually, launched last year, and was basically was responsible to, again, find like celebrities or like prominent figures within the entertainment world and such, to basically record video messages of encouragement to children in Ukraine,
Oh.
because obviously we fully well know like the effect war has on children. It's an extremely traumatizing time for them. And what this organization who I was working with, Eastern Europe Foundation, what they wanted to do is basically kind of have something for children that made them feel children, if that kind of makes sense, that they, okay, there's a space online for them to come to, and and also to make them feel like there are people around the world, who do recognize and who do care for you as well too. So yeah, I remember just reaching out to so many agencies and be like, hey, can we please book your, X, Y, and Z on. So that was really great. Ended up booking Stephen Fry, sorry, for the campaign, and help them to basically put their like social media strategy together.
Uh-huh.
So basically in terms of like, okay, this should be the launch day, and in terms of how to actually promote this on social media, and how to also ensure that it has that like wide global reach, but most importantly how we can really align this to children as well.
Hmm.
So the whole campaign, it's not just motivational videos as well. The children can get involved in this, and we've had children like send over their videos, and also like raffle competitions as well. So it's really a campaign that was made for children, and actually for children as well, because sometimes, I don't know if you've ever found this, like there'll be campaigns and they'll say like, I'm not going to say any names, don't want to get a lawsuit over here, but sometimes personally I found, when I've seen like worldwide international campaigns, like you look at them and you're watching them, but you could tell there's like that disconnect,
Hmm.
and I feel like nowadays it's just there's a lot of like, okay, ticking the boxes type of thing, because
You
you have
find this off. Yep. Hmm.
to, not because you truly care, or because you want to, but it's just because, oh, okay, have we done this because we have to do that, otherwise, you know probably going to get a backlash and everything as such. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that brings me to my like next question. Like when you're doing these campaigns, like booking all these, important people, like what kind of struggles or hardships do you like see that isn't really, something that we think about, but like you've witnessed and experienced?
Oh, what do you mean? Like in terms of when I'm doing the actual work, like the struggles?
Yeah.
So I have to say, gosh, the actual biggest struggle is, um, actually booking someone in the first place, because there's always that thing, like, you have your plan and you're very organized, like with your spreadsheet there and everything. And, with you've written out all your pictures and everything and stuff. And then it comes down to, are they going to respond? Are they going to get back to you? Is it going to be a yes or no or a maybe?
Hmm.
That is where the biggest struggle is. And I remember, like, when I actually did do this campaign as well, I was like, literally, I was like, oh my God, I hope that's not going to happen. But, I have this thing, like, if I put my mindset to that thing, that, oh my God, this is going to happen, this is going to happen,
Hmm.
that will actually happen. So I just literally put it in my head, like, okay, you know what? Like, I've got to be logical over here. Yes, there is a possibility that it could happen, but it's okay. You know what? I can reach out to XYZ and everything as such. So I think it just comes down to, like, things don't always go to plan. Um, but like there's always a way to do something,
Yeah.
and I don't believe in, like, overly, like, stressing yourself out and everything as such, because it's not going to, like, what benefit is it going to bring? It's not gonna, that person who you wrote an email to, they're not gonna get some, like, telepathic thing. Oh, Preeti is stressing out. Let me
Yeah.
respond to her, But yeah,
That being
so
said, with like also with like the trends, the media with there's so many different trends and all, like even with the news topics that are trending, some of the false, media that's spreading. How do you stay on top of that?
yeah, so that's a really, really good question, because like, we live in a really fast-paced world, and there's something always happening, there's always, like, breaking news. Um, so notifications on all the time. And it's not just actually, what, like, looking at the news in itself, but it's also talking to people too. So
Mm.
people who, who come from, like, expert backgrounds as well. So the person who I actually work with, Michael Bossecu, so he's a global affairs analyst. So I often do speak to him, and through him, I'm able to, like, kind of get a more of a deeper and greater understanding of, situations that are happening. So, the war in Ukraine and everything as such. But I also like to attend panel events. So there is this organization here called Online Frontline Club.
Mm.
Uh, and basically they host, like, these panel events where they'll invite experts, and they'll talk about, there's different various subjects. Um, and that's really, really good way to not only, like, stay on top of, like, what's happening, because these are journalists, or even humanitarians who, have been to certain places in the world, and they've come back, and they've got a different,
Hmm.
they've kind of got a different take as what we would see on the news.
Hmm.
So I really, like, enjoy going to those, and just kind of, like, getting my getting my news, and also staying updated in different ways, because the news is not the only form of way that we should be staying updated. I think it's really important to, like, speak to people as well. It's really important to stay open-minded too.
Hmm.
um so yeah, and I think also it comes down to, like, just also having that interest, that passion as well. If you're genuinely interested and passionate about something, you're always going to be like, oh, I wonder what's happening next, I wonder this, I wonder that. It's
Yeah.
kind of like how on TikTok, and you see, like, TikTokers, and they're always looking for different ways to, like, share their content and everything, because they're so passionate about it. So they're always, looking and kind of scheming on different ways to, you know show their content and such, and their creativity.
Yeah, I agree. So like, staying on top of the education in different ways. And that goes back to like having a community, an educating community. So as like us, like listeners, what can we do being proactive? Like you said, obviously be going back to the community, listening to stories, hosting or attending panels. Is there
Mm.
anything else, or how can we give back or be a little now with this generation of social media, like sharing? But how can we verify even what we're sharing are right, even sometimes?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question because some of my friends, they've come up to me and be like, "Oh, you know what? I saw on TikTok this is happening and everything as such."
Yeah.
And I'm, "No, girl, don't believe it. Do not believe it." I'm like, so that's actually a really, really good question. And I think it comes down to, the individual themselves as well. I mean, it's really, really easy to view something online and just be like, okay, this is the truth, and basically my what I would say to anyone who does do that, and to even friends of mine who have done that, I always say to them, do your research. you know
Mm.
okay, you've read something, or maybe even someone's told you something. Do not just believe just by face value what they've said.
Mm.
Do your research. We have the internet. If and you could always, and there's various several organizations that you can reach out to as well. I mean, on social media as well, like we've seen kind of the rise of fact checking profiles as well. So
Mhm.
that's also a really, really good place to actually go to, to ensure like, okay, what I'm reading, is this actually correct too? But I think, when it comes down to social media and seeing things and you know kind of viewing, oh, is this false, is this true or not, it also comes down to that individual as well, and what they want to perceive as to be true or
Mm.
false, because we are all led by, like, our opinions and everything and such. So
Mhm.
when we go online and we're searching something, we're going to be searching something that's, in alignment to what's already stuck in our head. It's
Yep.
like, okay, I'm a firm believer in this, so let me go on, TikTok, or let me go online and search, more about this and everything as such. So I think it's kind of being a bit open-minded, and just really seeing different point of views. And then, I guess, like, when it comes to the truth, it's like we can never really know what the truth is, like
Yeah.
it's the truth, I mean,
Mhm.
even when it comes to news, anything as such, we will never know like the whole full version of the truth, but we can take at least 90% of that truth or anything as such. um so yeah, I'd say that is kind of like my feedback to people. But yeah.
And like, so you being as a Punjabi female also in the industry, what kind of hardships or struggles, or maybe even like acknowledgements that you received during this journey?
Yeah, so that's, gosh, you've got some great questions. I have to say, actually, in terms of hardships and struggles as well, like, um I don't like to like view it as in like, okay, I do understand, like, obviously when it comes to like diversity and everything as such, like ethnic minorities like myself and everything as such, like we do have to work 10 times harder. But me personally, myself, I don't like to view that as a barrier, and be like, okay, I'm Punjabi, and it's in my blood, like, have to work 10 times harder anyways at anything you do. So be it. But I'm not gonna like ignore the fact that that is an issue that does exist. And my advice, and kind of like, if I was someone who did feel like that, I guess what I would say to myself is, I guess, you know what? It's always just being true to yourself, and just sticking by that. I have to say, like, the struggles I faced growing up, and especially like in this like journalism sector as well, I find that, like, I do look quite young. So I am 30, but everyone thinks like I'm 19 or like really young. And I've always found that I get treated differently as a result of, because, oh, she looks young, and like she she doesn't know nothing or whatever, or like she's just a little baby. But you
They
just got,
don't account for the experiences that you've had so
yeah,
far.
and that's the thing, like you've just got to go into these places and just be like, well, at the end of the day, I know myself, I know who I am, and you're always going to get perceived and you're always going to get judged everywhere you go, and you really just have to push past that. And the way that you do it, or the way that I personally do it, is I look at the bigger picture and I look at the goal and be like, why am I doing this?
I love that. I think that's sort of like how I perceive hardships too. I feel like if you talk into those hardships, they do can. And I feel like that they're just obstacles that we just have to overcome to get to our big vision goals, our yeah, what we envision our life to unfold like that. So during your journey, what was like your supporters like? How did your family react? Because this is one of those like topics and career paths that isn't really talked about. I know when I had mentioned podcasting to my parents, so I come from a Khalistani Punjabi family, and they were just like, nay, don't do it. Uh,
You know.
yep. And they always just like, but it is, you have to, I feel like you have to see the fear and then you have to just feel the fear and keep moving forward. We just can't be quiet, especially the type of work you are doing. You can't be silent. So I'd love to hear what kind of support or who were the supporters during this journey.
Yeah, so I have to say my family is like my biggest supporters, not supporter. So obviously, when I told my mom I want to go to university, which was all the way in Sheffield, she was like, what, you live in the house? I don't think so, youngest of the family. And I was like, trust me, mom, don't worry, I'll be good. And you get all that, how are you going to cook for yourself? And don't worry, mom, I'll come back and then, I'll be able to do it all by myself, but you won't need to do anything for me. So initially when I told my mom I wanted to do journalism, she was like, no, you should do law. And I was like, mom, no, I'm not about that life. Like, yes, I love reading, but you know what? Law is something I'm not passionate about. And she was like, okay, cool. You want to do journalism? Go ahead, fine. And I have to say, like, if I'm talking, like presently right now, like my whole family's been like extremely supportive, in everything and anything that I do. My mom's always, like giving me advice. She's always giving me feedback as well. Like I've taken my mom to a few of the panel events I've gone to as well. And she's come, when the event has finished, she talked to me, she'd be like, oh, I really like the way that you presented yourself, and it's really good, etc., etc., everything as such. And same with my sisters and my brother as well. Like I just feel really grateful because they're all very, very supportive, and any time like where I've had those instances, like where I have second guessed myself, or I'd be like, oh, you know what, like, oh, I don't know if I should do this, or am I that good enough or anything as such. And they're always there to like remind me and just kind of give that support and that motivation that what, you've got this far, you are good at what you do and everything and such, and like believe in yourself. So I have to say, like, I feel really, really grateful that they're the most supportive family members ever. Especially my mom, like she's like my number one like cheerleader, she's just absolutely, absolutely amazing. So yeah.
That's amazing. I love hearing that. I think having a good support tribe, whatever that may look like, it's so important, especially, in a stressful career like yourself as well. I'd love to ask you about that. Like, how do you deal with distress, like what is your mental health like, what is your routine like, especially like also mental health isn't a topic that up in Punjabi household ch gal karde hain, right? So
Mm.
how do you deal with it, or what does your routine look like?
So I'm really, really big on like self-care.
Mhm.
So self-care is number one. And in my room, actually, like I'm looking at it right now, I've got like just things like stuck on my wall. So I a few days ago, like I drew a flower, and I just wrote on there, wherever life plants you, bloom with grace. And I've got this card as well that says happiness can be found in the smallest of things. It is our passion to turn everyday routines into more meaningful moments. And then I got this, you got this, 100 quotes. So I've kind of like made my desk space, not just all about work. I've kind of like tried to incorporate me into the desk space as well, just not to be a space where, I'm on my laptop and I'm, working away, I just try to add some color into the desk space. So I think that really, really helps. In terms of mental health, yeah, you know what, it can get very stressful, especially, when you're dealing with breaking news, and sometimes, you have to stay awake, because that especially when we're talking about time difference as well, so let's say, for example, I know CNN may well reach out to me. I'm here based in the UK. I don't know what the time difference. I don't know at the back of my head what the time difference is. If I go on Google, I would know. But obviously there is a time difference there. So sometimes it is, like staying up quite late. And that's just part of the job, But in terms of, how I really look after my mental health, like I said, self-care, having things around you just to kind of positive affirmations. That's it. Positive affirmations are key. And I like to do things like, like skincare and everything as such. So like after a really long day, just lovely, I'm really into like my Korean skincare recently. So I've been using that. And then I have this thing as well, like just straightening my hair. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's bad because long term, it's not going to be good. But you know what? Actually, straightening my hair, literally before I work, and even when I'm done with a day and everything as such, it just.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I
Thank
definitely, is there anything last that you want to share with the audience, how they can support you, follow you? Definitely please share.
Yeah, definitely. So I am on Instagram, Preeti Bali, but I have two Instagrams. So one's my private one. So unless you know me, I won't be accepting you on that one. And then
Fair
obviously,
enough.
then I have my public one, which is, where I put the work one, everything related to work. That's on there. So, please do follow me if you wish to, and reach out as well. Like if you ever want some advice as well. And just to, like kind of say like to your followers and your listeners as well, anyone who's on this path, whether that's in the media or you've got some other dreams, like never give up, because I know like at one point, like sometimes like what you want to achieve, you look at it and be like, okay, but I tried so hard, I've done XYZ, and I've done this internship and did this internship. When am I going to get my
Yeah.
chance? But you know what? I just believe like everything in life, as cliche as it sounds, it does happen for a reason. And everyone's journey is different. So if you really, really want to do something, like stick to your dreams. Don't put an age limit on
Mm,
yourself. Everything that I've done, I've just only recently started to do that. I remember like 19-year-old Preeti, wouldn't, I'm not going to say she wouldn't have thought like she would be able to do this. Like I always knew, always had that belief, like, yeah, you know what, I know I'm going to get to where I want to, and it's going to be a struggle. So just remember, your struggles make you. And I have to say, like, appreciate where you are too, because
yep.
I think like when we get to where we want to, and then you're like, okay, what's next? But then where you are right now, like at one point, like that's all you wished for. So you know what, be present, enjoy where you are, because months down the line you're going to be in somewhere different. So yeah, that is really like my advice. And any of your listeners, if they ever need advice, anything as such, just DM me, and I'm always here to suggest you to contacts I know, and also to like give you advice as well. So yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, hon. This was amazing. I'm sure the audience will love this, and I can't wait to share it with everyone.